If I show you what I have in front of me here, probably you would be able to say that it's a pretzel. It looks like a great one, doesn't it? But probably the first thing that would jump into your mind would not be Christian symbol when you look at this. Although if you look up pretzels during Lent on the internet, that's the first thing you're going to find, is that this is a Christian symbol. Now look at it for a minute. Do you see the shape of it? This pretzel shape? If you saw this shape anywhere, you would call that a pretzel shape, no matter what it was that was in this shape. Well, it looks, if you use your imagination, like a person standing with their arms crossed across their chest like this, which was apparently an ancient way to engage in prayer. Instead of sitting with hands folded the way we do now, people apparently used to stand like this in prayer. And so this is a Christian symbol. Now, like anything you look up on the internet, you will find differing information about pretzels and Christianity. But it seems that many, many years ago, perhaps as long ago as the 400s or 500s, someone first began using these pretzels to remind people about prayer during Lent. You know that many people were required at that time to give up something during Lent. In fact, all Christians gave up some things during Lent. And apparently it wasn't only meat, but any animal products. And so people tried to find something that was edible that didn't contain animal products. And so, of course, dough, most doughs, would qualify as that. So the story goes that someone invented this as something to have during Lent that would qualify for what you needed to give up and remind people about getting ready for Lent. I also read something that said that usually during Lent, people ate one meal a day, maybe around 3 o'clock in the afternoon, maybe at what we would call supper time or dinner time in the early evening. And they would have snacks through the day to kind of tide them over. This makes a great snack, as you know. Now you can see that this is a soft pretzel, the kind you get at a ball game usually, or like this one in the mall nowadays. Most pretzels that we have now are those hard ones, and there's even a story on the internet about how those came about. Apparently a young baker fell asleep while these were baking, and they turned into those much crispier pretzels that most of us know. Now, as I was thinking about these pretzels and Lent, I realized that this is a Christian symbol that we have lost control of. For most people, this is no longer a Christian symbol. In fact, I imagine if you asked 100 people what this means, they would say something about a ball game or the beverage that you consume when you eat pretzels. But the first thing that came to mind would certainly not be Christian symbol. We've lost control of this. And there are probably many things that the church has used as symbols to remind us about Christ and about our faith throughout the centuries that we have also lost control of. And I've noticed in the last few years that instead of trying to recreate symbols to teach people about Christianity, there are some people who have kind of taken over things that are important in our culture and given them Christian meaning. If I were to ask you what is the most popular holiday between Christmas and Easter, you might say Valentine's Day or St. Patrick's Day, or maybe Groundhog Day is a big day in your house. But you know what's very popular for very many people in this country? Super Bowl Sunday. Now, we could just give up as Christians and say, well, people aren't going to come to church, or if they do, they're going to really want to rush out of here so they can get home so they don't miss 1 minute of the pregame show. But instead, what has happened in the last few years is that young people and others in churches have decided that they will give meaning to Super Bowl Sunday, meaning that has something to do with our faith. You know there's a movement for the Super Bowl, S-O-U-P-E-R, Bowl, a way to raise funds for people who are hungry. And this year I experienced something called empty bowls, where the children in a church had made pottery bowls that were sold in order to raise money for the people who are hungry. There was a soup supper in the church. There was a time to vote on which soup you thought was the best one. It was all on Super Bowl Sunday. It was all done so that you didn't miss any of the game, but it kind of took over something in our culture and gave it some Christian meaning instead of just abandoning all of the symbols that we have once had. It really reminds me of what Jesus apparently did when he told the parables. He doesn't seem to have really invented new symbols for people to use. Instead, he looked around him And he found things that were familiar to people and gave them new meaning as he understood the kingdom of God and explained it to people in a new way. And so I challenge you this Lent to find something in your culture, something that is important to the people around you, and find a way to help them to see it in a new way so that they can understand themselves as beloved children of God and have hope.